Hello everyone, my name is Steven. Today I'm here to provide a simple walkthrough of the web application MigBench that we have built through our 401 project. So MigBench, used to be called PyMigBench, is a web application that allows users to query and view benchmark data for Python library migrations. So first, when we visit the site, we can see some short descriptions on the left. These are descriptions that outlines the work that the SMR labs have made, some simple overviews about this website, and then some details about the query data. In the how to query section, we can also see this refer to another link, which have more detailed explanation provided by the SMR lab on the different type of data type there is, and what kind of item there are, and what are the valid type of queries that the user might want to do. Now we have returned to our website, and then on the right we can see a static visual of library mappings. This visual is very useful to show the user what kind of library migration there is that is stored in our database. For example, we can see migration from Flask to FastAPI. We can see from Keras to Torch, or sklearn to PyTorch, right? We can also see MySQL Python to MySQL client, so they're using different type of SQL client. These could be very useful information because they can be useful when we are performing our queries, which is important. So this library mapping visual only shows what kind of library mapping we have, but it doesn't show us what kind of actual change that the repo have made. So we can do that by using the query tool. So the query tool have two kinds. So we have the query builder, which are checkboxes that allow us to select a certain data type, and then select the field we want, and then type in our where field. Or we have a raw text input. So in this text input, we can just use select statements, writing standard SQL syntax statement. I will demonstrate the text input in later. We start with the query builder first. For example, if I want to see the actual code change made when we are migrating from Flask to FastAPI on all of the repos, we can do so this is the code changes. So now let's just select all the properties. So we have file path, the properties, source, target, the code itself, and then the repo. Just name a few, and then the commit. So what we can do here is, once we select all the messages, like we select all the properties, we can do a where filter. Let's just say the library pairing is the source is Flask and the target is FastAPI. So in here we can just say source like Flask and target like FastAPI. We can make a query. It scrolls down, and then it shows me exactly there are 3 examples of code changes. So once in the query result, we can see there are some buttons. These buttons are useful for allow us to see the actual GitHub page of the repo and the commit. So once we click here, we can see this is the GitHub repo of the actual project. Same thing with this one. And then the commit is the type of commit we have made. Not we have made, the repo has made. So in here we can see the different type of commit. Of course, these are just standard GitHub feature at this point, so I'm not gonna talk too much, but this is available. And then we can also see the code. So we have stored the code on our side, so that it is possible for the user to actually see the difference between the code on our website. So here we can see that our visual has highlighted the different type of basically the difference that the repo owner has to make. So this is from Flask to import. So this is from Flask. We can see this is like using the Flask framework, and then on the right we are using the Fast API framework from Fast API. So this is the query tool. Of course, you can select other type of data type as well, like migration and library pair, you can also join different type of data types. So for example, for code change, since the code change has the commit but doesn't have the commit message, if I want to say I want to see the commit message, I can just select the migration as well, and I select the commit message, and then select all the property of code changes. Since the other type of since the other columns are just duplicate columns, I'm not gonna select them. So let's do the same thing. This time I'm just not gonna do any filtering. So now we can see all the type of all the data that is joined between code change and migration. So in here we can see the commit itself, and we can see the commit message. So that is the query builder. Now we move on to the text input. The text input will have the same output as the query builder, except for the fact that the text input will allow the user to input their own SQL queries. This is very useful for some users because they may be copy and pasting queries from different sources, or the fact that they are or the fact that they prefer simply typing out the SQL itself. So for example, if we want to select all the property from code change, we can do select. Now do know that the SQL is not a standard SQL syntax. So for here we'll require ** to select all the properties. And then we do the same thing where let's go back to our old example from Flask to Fast API. We can make a query, and then we can see the query is updated to the result that we used to have. This is exactly the same output as the previous ones, but you know, this may be a more useful tool for some users. And of course, everything is documented on the source code, and we also have an API documentations. So if for API documentations on the backend. So if people may desire to come up with their own front-end design, the API documentation is fully available. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you guys have enjoyed the demo with me, and see you later.